Last night I made this little bracelet and I thought it was so cute that I thought maybe I'd make a video and show you how I did it. This bracelet uses 2-hole tiles, Czech tiles, and you can get these at the Potomac Bead Company in a little tube like this. This color in this bracelet is alabaster champagne, I believe. And then I just used some crystals and some 6mm and 4mm pearls. And this is what it looks like on the wrist. As you can see, let me see if I can get it actually on my wrist and then I'll show it to you better. There we go. That's what it looks like on the wrist since I just closed it with a toggle. Anyway, let's back in here. And this also, the way that I embellished it, it makes it have kind of a 3D effect because the crystals pop up after I put the pearls on. And so I'm going to call it 3D tiles. Anyway, this is what we're going to make today, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's look at what we're going to need to make this project today. Okay, so what you're going to need for this project today is 10, 11, or 12 2-hole Czech tiles. This is just a little Czech bead with 2 holes in them. Now, people are going to ask me, can you use a tila for this? Well, tilas are a little bit smaller and thinner, so if you do this, you'll probably have to bring everything down a size. So instead of using 4mm, you'll use 3mm bicones. Instead of using a 6 and a 4, you'll probably use a 4 and a 3 in your rounds. But anyway, as far as the tila is concerned, I haven't tried it, but if you want to, go for it. Just be creative and figure something out with it. But then after you have your tiles, and like I said, 10, 11, or 12 is going to depend upon your length. I am making a 7-inch bracelet today. And I will be using 11 tiles. You'll need a 15-0 seed bead and an 11-0 seed bead. Both of my seed beads are Tohos, and they are galvanized gold tone, and they are called Starlight if you're looking for them. You'll also need a 4mm bicone crystal, and you'll need about 88 of them. A little bit more if you're going to make a longer bracelet than I do, and less if you make a shorter bracelet than I do. But I'm going to use 88. You'll need a 6mm round bead, and I am using a glass pearl in a powder pink color. Then you'll need a 4mm round, and I am using a glass pearl in a lavender color. You will need a toggle clasp. I'm using a rather large toggle clasp, and it is gold tone, kind of antique gold tone. You will need 8-pound Fireline. You can probably use 10 or 6 if you'd like, and you will need several yards of it, and you will need a size 10 beading needle. I am using an English beading needle, size 10. Okay, so we will start this project by picking up a tile bead. It doesn't matter which hole you pick it up in, just pick up a tile bead. Then pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, and an 11-0, like this. Then you will bring this to the end of your thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, enough to hold on to and keep your beads from slipping. And then come back up through your tile bead and all of your other beads also. Just do a few at a time. I'm going to come up through my tile, my first 11-0, and my bicone crystal, and I'm going to pull these crystals and 11-0s around the tile bead like this. And then I'm just going to continue sewing back through the beads that I haven't gone through yet. Pull through. And then I'm going to come back up through my tile. And I'm just going to pull everything nice and neat and tight like this. So you just have a loop on one side of your tile. Then you're going to go to the other hole. So we're coming out of this hole right here. We're going to go into this hole. And we're going to pull our thread through. And then we're going to pick up an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0, a bicone, an 11-0, a bicone, and an 11-0 seed bead, like this. We're coming out of this side of our tile. We're going to go into the opposite side, and we're going to pull our beads into a loop. Now, since this is our first unit and things can get a little bit loose, we're going to go ahead and secure this by tying or by sewing back through all of these beads that we just added. Oops, I hope I was in frame there. I'm just sewing through the beads, and then I'm just going to come back up through my tile bead right here, just like this. So you should just have 2 loops around your tile. You're coming out of this side of the tile bead on the end where your tail is, in the opposite hole here, and we're just going to come back through the opposite hole like this. Now we have to make a little extension so that we can add our next base unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0, and a tile bead, like this. We're going to bring these down to our work, like this. Now you want to move your tile bead in like that so that everything is laying so that you can work on the outside of the tile bead. So you want your tile bead to lay in or away from you. And okay, let me explain this better. Where your crystal is, you want your tile bead to be on the outside so that it's a straight line we're working in. Then pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, an 11-0, a bicone crystal, an 11-0, and a bicone crystal, and one more 11-0, like this. We're coming out here. We are going to hold on to this little tile bead like this, and we're just going to come back into the tile itself, avoiding the 11-0 and the crystal on the other side, and just pull a loop around like this. Now you want this to be very secure. If you feel like you need to, sew back through the entire loop. If not, then you can move over to the next hole here, come through it, make sure everything's tight. You don't want any gaps between the crystal and the 11-0s in the middle here. And then pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a 4mm bicone, 11-0, bicone, 11-0, bicone, 11-0, like this. And then again, we're coming out of this hole here. We're going to go into the opposite side, just like this. And we are going to pull all these beads into a loop, just like that. Now we want this to stay fairly tight, so just support it, or support the bead with your thumb and then just pull it tight. Then we're now coming out of this side here. We need to connect to this unit here. So we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead, like this. We're coming out here. We're going to go into the same hole on the opposite, or the first tile that we made our unit on. And we're just going to go through that hole and pull. Just like that. And now we have 2 little units. We're coming out of our first unit in this hole right here. We're going to go down into the next hole on the tile and through the 11-0, the bicone crystal, and the 11-0 that are connecting the 2 tiles, and then back through the tile on the bottom here, the second tile. Do not go through the 11-0 on the other side. And pull. Keep everything tight and neat. This can get loose and wobbly and get really messy and sloppy looking if you're not careful. You need to be able to support this on your middle finger and hold with your thumb as you're sewing so that you can keep everything tight. Then you will pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0, and a tile, like this. You're going to bring all of this down, like this. Make sure the tile, the outside, is in line with your bicone and your 11-0s in your connection here that you're just about to create. Hold everything secure. Pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, an 11-0, a bicone crystal, an 11-0, and a bicone crystal, and an 11-0. Like this. You're coming out of this hole here. You're going to go into the opposite side, avoiding the 11-0 that you just put on. Bring it around, and as you do this, pull everything together so that you have no gaps in your connection. And then come up through, you're coming out of this hole here, come up into the next hole of your tile. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead, and a bicone crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead, and a bicone crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead. Just like this. And we're coming out of this hole here. We are going to go into the opposite side, hold on to the tile, and pull your loop around like this, just like that. Now we need to connect the two units, so we're going to make sure we have good tension on our loop that we just created. We're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead, just like this. We're coming from this side of the tile. We're going to go into the opposite tile in the same hole. Now you have to kind of arrange yourself because you have to move this 11-0 out of the way. You do not want to go into any of the 11-0s on either side. So just come through like this without grabbing 11-0s on either side of the tile and pull. Just like that. And now you are coming out of this hole in the previous unit of the tile. Then you are going to, you're coming out of this hole, you're going to go into the next hole in the tile, avoiding the 11-0 on this side, but we will go into the 11-0, the bicone crystal, and the 11-0 on the opposite side, and also slide up through the tile of your newest unit. And we're going to keep doing this until we have 11 units. Now 11 units is going to make a 7-inch bracelet. Now this, you have to take in consideration your toggle clasp, what size you're using. If you're using a toggle clasp, then you will have to take that into consideration as you're making your units. Now if you want to make a smaller bracelet, then you will only do 10 units. If you want to make a bigger bracelet, you can do 12 units. Just keep in mind the size of your clasping. And we'll be back when I have 11 units finished. So I have completed my 11 units. I'm coming out of the tile on the end here now after connecting my last 2 units together. And so my thread is just coming out of this little hole right here in my very last tile I added. Now I'm going to do the clasping on this side, and I'm going to do the round end of my toggle clasp. Now depending upon the size of the hole in your toggle clasp, you may or may not be able to do this the way I'm going to do it. If not, I will explain as I do this what to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, And then I'm going to pick up a bicone crystal like this. And I'm going to drop this down. Now I'm going to pick up 311 In my 311 one is going to stay lodged inside of this little hole. Now, if this isn't going to work with your toggle clasp, if it's too big or if it's too small, then just pick up 2 and your thread will just go through your toggle clasp without having a little bead inside. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to pick up 311 and my third one just fits right in there, which kind of protects my thread. So I'm just going to pull this down like this. And I'm going to get real close so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see how that 11 is just right inside my toggle. Now, you can just put one on the outside, go through your toggle, and put one on the other side too. You don't have to worry about this. If it's not going to work, it's not a big deal. It just happens to hold mine very well with the toggle that I have. Now I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to come back down into my crystal right here and pull this all down and kind of line it up so that my 2 little 11-0s are on either side of my toggle loop. And then I'm going to pick up another 11-0 seed bead onto my needle like this. And I'm just going to go down into the second hole of the tile, avoiding the 11-0s on either side as I go through the hole. Just like this. Now you can see my toggle lies here perfectly. What I'm going to do now, let me back off because I will get out of frame, is I'm coming out of this hole here. I'm going to go into the other hole, avoiding my 11-0 on this side of the tile. And I will come up into the 11-0 I just added on the other side of the tile bead like this. And I will also come up through the bicone crystal and the 11-0 on this side of the toggle like this. Then I will go back through, making sure that I'm going through the little bead I have stuck in my toggle here. And then down through the 11-0 on the other side, and the crystal again, and the 11-0 I added, and the tile on the other side here, just like this. Avoid the 11-0 down here on the tile bead. Now, we will do that a couple of times. We'll go back up through this side, so around just like we just now did a couple of times just to secure it, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have secured my clasp. Now, as you can see, when I came back through after my last round of securing everything, I came back up through my tile. I did not come up through this 11-0 seed bead. Oop, that's a little too close. Right here. Because as I came through, it just came through the tile and I just avoided all of these beads here. So you can see that I'm just coming out of the tile. Then what I need to do is I need to sew into this 11-0 on the loop. The first 11-0 on the loop. We're going to sew into it and this little crystal here. We're going to sew all the way around this first loop, and we are just going to exit the last crystal, not the last 11-0, just the last crystal, just like that. And this will put us in position for our pearl embellishment. So right here is where we will begin our next step. So we're going to begin with our 4mm pearls, and we will be using 11 or 15-0 seed beads now. So we'll pick up a 15-0 and a 4mm round pearl and a 15-0 onto our needle. So this is what I have. I'm coming out of this crystal right here. I'm going to go into the next loop, the last crystal right here. I am not going to include that 11-0. I'm just going to pick up the crystal right here and come out of the top of the crystal. Now this bead will kind of pop on top of everything, and that's what you want. That's what's going to give you a 3D effect. But make sure it's tight. Don't let it be loose. Loose. And then you will pick up a 15-0 seed bead and a 6mm round pearl and a 15-0 seed bead like this. You're coming out of the top of this crystal here. You're going to go into the same crystal on the opposite side through the top, avoiding the 11 O's on either side. So just go through the top of the crystal here, perhaps. I know this isn't hard. Okay, right there. Pull it through like this. And you're going to make everything gather together so that this little pearl is underneath this little pearl. You're coming out of the crystal here. You're going to slide up through the 15-0, the 4mm round, and the 15-0. So through, go back into the crystal that you're connected to, and then you're going to sew through all of this loop until you can exit the bottom of the last bead in the loop. So you're going to go through the 11-0, the crystal, the 11-0, and down through the last crystal, but not the 11-0. And you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead, a 4mm round bead, and a 15-0 seed bead. You're exiting this crystal here. You're going to go into the opposite crystal, avoiding the 11 O's on either side of the crystal, and pull your bead down, making sure that it lands on top of everything and kind of puckers up a little bit. Then you will do the same thing again on top with your 6mm, 15-0, 6mm round bead, 15-0. You're coming out of this crystal, you'll go into the opposite crystal and pull your beads tight. Then you'll travel through the top of the first pearl, including the 15 O's, and then down through the crystal you're connected to. You will then sew through the next crystals, exit the bottom of the last crystal in the loop, and do the same embellishment the entire length of the bracelet. And we'll be back when we get to the end. So I have finished my first embellishment with my pearls and on my first side here. And now I am coming out of, let's get a little closer. I'm coming out of this pearl after I put on my embellishment and then sewed back up through my top part of my pearl embellishment, like you've done with each one. Now we need to get over to the end here. So what we're going to do is we are going to sew down. We're coming out of the pearl in the 15-0 here. We're going to sew down into the very last loop of crystals, and we're going to sew all the way through the entire loop and the 11 O's in the loop, as well as the crystals, till we get all the way over. Now this is where my tail is, and since I'm not going to use this tail, I'm just going to cut it off and get it out of my way. Oops, sorry, I was out of frame here. Let's back off a little. So I just sewed all the way through all these crystals, and now I am coming out of this last crystal in 11-0 right here. I'm going to take my tail off. I'm going to turn this so you can see it. I'm coming out of this 11-0 right here. I'm going to go down into the tile. I'm going to avoid the 11-0 on the other side. I'm going to pull my needle through, and then I'm going to go up through the tile again in the other hole in the tile and avoid the 11 O's on either side. Pull my thread up through, and now I am ready to put my clasping on this end. Okay, so we're going to do this side a little bit differently than we did the other side when we do our clasping. Instead of doing the 3 little seed beads that go up through the loop of the hole, of course on this side it's positioned differently. It's a whole different situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0, and I'm going to drop them down till they lay nicely at the end of my tile. And then I'm going to go through, let's back off just a little bit. I don't have enough room to be in the picture here. I'm going to go through my toggle clasp here, the bar end, and I'm going to bring it down. Now I'm going to go around the toggle clasp and I'm going to go into the 11-0 on top and the bicone crystal, but I'm not going to go through the 11-0 on the bottom. Just the last 2 beads we put on. Just like that. Now I need to pick up another 11-0. So I've got an 11-0, and I'm going to come down through the next hole in the tile. So we've been working through this hole, we're going to go down into this hole. That way you'll have 4 little 11-0s laying on top of your tile, including the ones in your crystal loops. And I'll show you what I mean. So now you can see I have 4 little 11-0s. And these are the 2 I just added. These 2 were there already in my little loops. Now I need to secure this by sewing through it several times. You want to pull this just a little bit, pull the bar a little bit away from the 11-0 so you can get your needle in and out as you sew through. Now I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the holes and go up through the 11-0s that I just added and the crystal, just like this. Goodness sakes. Then I'm going to go into the 11-0, so I didn't capture that one, under my toggle, like this. And then into my toggle, and then down again into the 11-0 underneath, the crystal underneath, and then the other 11-0 I just added, if I can capture it. Sorry, getting caught on things. Okay, so now I'm coming out of this little 11-0 right here. I'm going to go down into the tile again. And then I'm going to pull it through, tighten everything up, make sure I leave enough room so I can scooch my little needle out around the toggle here. Go back up into my beads on this side. So I'm just moving back and forth through the holes in the tile and the beads that I added and just securing this toggle. And we're going to do that as many times as possible. If your beads get tight, of course you have to quit, or if you feel secure in what you have that's going to hold everything together well, then you'll quit. So go ahead and sew through it several times, exit the bottom of the tile after you're done, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have secured my clasping, and now I'm coming out of this little hole in the tile. Now when I came through my last time, I came through the hole on the side that we've already embellished, and I did not come through any of the beads underneath, just the tile. Now I'm going to turn this so that I can get my hand to it, and we'll back the camera off a little bit here. Oops, that's not backing off. And we're coming out of this hole, like I said. Now that's the hole on the side with the embellishments we've already done. We'll go up into the other hole. We're going to avoid all the little beads up here. Just come through the tile. And now we are going to sew through the 11-ohs and the crystals in the loop, and we're going to exit just the crystal on this side, so we'll avoid this last 11-oh. So we're going to come up through these 11-ohs, just like this. I'm just going to sew the entire loop until I get to the last crystal. And I'm just going to exit the last crystal here, so you can see right here. I'm not going to go through the 11-oh on the other side of it. Just the crystal. And now I am going to begin my embellishments again. So I'm going to pick up a 15-oh, a 4mm round, and a 15-oh. I am coming out of this crystal right here. I am going to go into the crystal opposite it right here, and just the crystal, not any of the 11-ohs on either side, just like that. I'm going to pull my little embellishment down, and then I'm going to pick up a 15-oh, and then a 6mm round, and a 15-oh, and I am now coming out of this crystal here. I'm going to go back into the crystal I started in on the opposite end here and come up through. Pull your thread through. Mine wants to tangle here. And then, in order to get over to our next side so we can do our next embellishment, we need to sew up through the 15-oh, the 4mm purl, and the 15-oh. Pull our thread through. Come back down through the crystal that we're connected to. You can also come through the 11-oh. That's fine, because we're going to sew through this loop here until we can get to the last crystal. So just keep sewing all the way around this loop. Exit the last crystal. Don't go through the last 11-oh on the loop. And then pick up a 15-oh, a 4mm round, and a 15-oh. You're coming out of this crystal here. You're going to go into the next crystal in the next loop in the same position and just go through the crystal, not any of the seed beads on either side, and pull your purl down. Pick up a 15-oh, a 6mm round, and a 15-oh. Just like this, you're coming out of this crystal, go into this one here, through the opposite hole that you started in, and, or the opposite end, not hole, it's the same hole. Then you're going to sew up into your first embellishment. Make sure that each embellishment you put on kind of pops up above the tiles a little bit. So you want to position things as you work these in. Now you're coming out of your embellishment on the top. Here, you're going to go down into the crystal, and you're going to sew through this loop until you get to the other side and exit the last crystal in the loop, but not the last 11-oh. Pull the thread through. Okay, so now I'm in position to start my next embellishment, and this is what it should look like so far. And now that you're doing your second side, everything's going to start to kind of poof up, and you're going to see how the layout of this bracelet is going to be even prettier than just having one side. You're going to see the full effect as you do this, and it's really quite pretty. It just gives it a really nice 3D effect. Go ahead and finish this embellishment all the way to the end, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my last embellishment. I am coming out of the crystal here after sewing back up around through my top embellishment, my small pearl. Let's get a little closer so you can see. I'm coming out of this crystal here. I am going to sew down into the loop again, just like you would do to move to a next unit. We just don't have a next unit. So we're just going to sew up through the loop like this into the 11-0 on the end of the loop. Then we're going to go down into the tile. On the bottom of the tile here, you can see this thread bridge. We're going to grab this thread bridge underneath it. Try to grab all of the layers. Pull your thread and make a half-hitch knot. Oops, don't grab your embellishment like I just did. Just pull it down tight like this. Come back up through your tile again. You can come through the other side. Let's do that. Let's go into the other side of just the tile. Don't grab any of the beads on either side. I'm going to flip my piece around, and then I am just going to sew into this 11-0 here, because I'm coming out of the tile, and I am just going to sew all the way around this little loop here. And you can sew through your work as much as you want to secure this. Generally, this will be enough, but that's up to you. It's how you want to do it. I'm coming out right here. I'm just going to snip my thread off and call it good. So let's look. Oopsie. Let's look at our pieces here. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, you have to do a little bit of arranging here and there, but as you can see, the top embellishment has raised above the tile. This. It depends on the colors you use too, how much of the effect you will see. This one looks a little bit higher, but either way, they both look good and they're really pretty. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we will see you in a little bit when I make another tutorial. Be creative. Bye-bye.